Welcome to Discover Indie Film. I'm your host, Jeff Howard, and this is going to be a very fun episode, and I'm going to lose control, that's for sure, because I have four people here, and they are responsible for a film that won the Programmer's Prize at Film Invasion Los Angeles last year, which I might as well say was 2023. Film Invasion Los Angeles 2024 literally ended night before last, and yet I still remember your film incredibly well. But there's four people here, so I'm going to let them introduce themselves, starting to my right, like that means anything to anyone on the podcast.
It's a visual medium podcast. Hi, I'm Bailey Castle. I'm the director of Back Home.
I'm Jules Quaas. I am one of the producers. I was also the assistant director and one of the composers for the film.
And I'm David Cameli. I was the executive producer, co-writer, and co-actor.
Oh, yeah. I remember that. Thank you. I'm Jeremy Schaye. I am also one of the co-writers and co-actors. Thanks for having us.
Yes,
Thank you all for being here.
Thanks
Congrats. It's been a year since I saw y'all. And you are about to release the film. I heard a rumor.
Yep.
I read it in Variety or something.
The trades.
Those leaks gotta do something about it.
But I guess what we can do is put a clickable link once you know exactly where it is.
Sure.
And who knows, maybe it'll end up on, one of those crazy things I do, like the Discover Indie Film TV series. That would work.
What? What an excellent idea.
That'd be crazy.
Or elsewhere. But as you all know, and everyone listening might know, this podcast, we get into how people got into the creative fields, because I'm going to be unsarcastic now and say we live in America where the arts are not supported and rarely respected. In fact, commercial success is respected, but not the actual art, right? People, heck, we got a teenager and she's just, when she was like 12 or 13, she was like, I want to be an actor. I said, why? I want to be famous.
Yeah.
Love it.
Sure.
I just want people to know I just want to be rich and famous.
Right.
Not I have to do this.
Sure.
And people who make indie films do so because they fucking have to. See, I won the race. I cursed first.
Fuck.
I was just so encapsulated.
I should have been like, I'm
Yeah, Jules.
What did I fucking say,
Yeah, Jules asked in advance if she's allowed to curse, and I'm like, well, normally I'm the first to curse.
First to curse.
And I thought I was going to lose my title, but I have not.
You are the reigning champion, sir.
So who wants to go first and tell their personal tale of how they got into the creative arts and this situation where you do passion projects?
Gosh, I feel like we all know each other so well that we could tell each other.
Yeah. Well, just make eye contact with me because I have
Go
no.
for a date.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
Oh, Dave's first.
Yeah, I'll go. Yeah, I mean, in terms of how I got started in acting, it's actually kind of funny because my mom always told me I should be an actor. And she was always like, Dave, you should be an actor, I don't know. I mean, I was a little kid. I loved playing with action figures. I had an imagination that way. I don't feel like I showed any talent. Let me slide over here.
Okay. We're sharing a mic for those of you at home who are listening and not seeing.
Benefit, yes.
It's a visual medium, a podcast.
Right.
And by the way, I'll say this while it's recording. Do not leave here without me taking a group picture with you.
Oh, it's happening.
Because it says take pic at the top of my screen, and I forgot to. And it's in the biggest font possible.
I love it. But you know what's good?
Jules
We'll be
wouldn't have forgot.
Yeah, we'll be on the high of it. I'm the social media gal of all this, so don't worry. I got you.
Yeah, no, and so my mom was...
So wait, what kind of action figures?
Oh, Marvel, superhero, Spider-Man, Wolverine. For the longest time, I like if you had asked me when I was, I think even up to I was like maybe 9 or 10, what I wanted to be, I would have said Spider-Man. I'm like, that's my plan, is to be Spider-Man. Like, not to have a career, but to literally be Spider-Man, find a bug and have it bite me. Yeah, and so we're going back to the story, how I got into acting. So my mom was always saying I should be one, and I was like, at the time, I was like, Mom, actors are losers, they don't get girls, they're not popular, Not that I was getting any of those things at the time. I was very much a loner in high school. But, in my head, I hadn't, for whatever reason, hadn't associated it with anything, I suppose, that would help me rectify my situation, and so I kind of just ignored her, and then I saw the movie Good Will Hunting when I was a junior in high school, and I saw it. I was blown away by it. I watched it again, and then I got, for some reason, I read that, you know, Matt Damon and Ben Affleck had written it, and for some reason I got in my head, oh, well, maybe I could write something, so I started writing a screenplay. And I, from there, just kind of started going into acting in almost every way, which is like I was researching films, I was watching as many, I would see movies before, but, you know, I would just like watch them. I mean, then I started actually seeking movies out, watching the great actors, the great films, you know, and I decided to audition. And Jared, you were talking before the podcast started about your first experience on stage, and mine was I was auditioning for The Diary of Anne Frank.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
It was the first audition I ever had, and I had this monologue that I had like gotten offline. It was like, I don't know, it was probably like one of those made up monologues that, you know, put in like the monologue books, and I got it, and I was doing the audition, and I was so nervous I could like barely like stand, like I was like shaking, and I did the thing, and there was like silence for a second. I was like, and the guy, he was the director of the play, and he was, I think, our English teacher, and he was like, after a second, he was like, "What you're doing is very nice, but I can't hear you, so can you do it again?" And I was like, "Oh, okay." So I did my monologue again, and I left, and I was like, "Well, I didn't get it." I told my mom, I was like, I didn't get it. And then the next day I got cast, as the lead Nazi in The Diary of Anne Frank.
That's a good part.
That was my first ever role as the lead Nazi.
I know
Like
that
a
play.
young Liam Neeson.
Yes.
Yeah, it was, but...
He says the most lines of the Nazis.
yeah.
If I remember that play correctly.
Well, he was the good Nazi. I was the one that wrangled up the
good
family.
Nazi.
And,
Yeah, right.
well, yeah, right. It's such
Rolf.
a thing. But, you know, I was the one that wrangled up the family and threw him off the stage at the end. So,
True villain.
yeah, I was not. But honestly, like, I had such a good time doing it. I bonded so much with the cast, and I made some friends, and it was great. And honestly, from there, it just continued on. So, and then I went to college, I got my degree in finance, but I continued to act, and I always wanted to do acting. I worked for a little bit, saved up some money in Chicago, and was then doing plays, and then eventually, 2019, me and Jules made the jump to LA, and that was when I quit my job and kind of went full-time at it. And to your point, it was, it's the kind of thing where when you're doing indie film, I don't remember if you said this on air or not, Jeff, but you were like, with acting, so much of it gets wrapped up in the fame and the, you know, Oscars, whatever, all the money, all the stuff that you think about the results, but it has to be like something in you that like you have to do it. And I definitely have felt that way. It's like an itch that can't be scratched unless you like make a film or, you know, pursue putting your artistic voice out there. So, I don't know if we can talk later, I guess, about how all of us met, because we all met in Chicago doing a play. But anyway, that's me.
And you grew up in Chicago?
Oh yeah, I grew up in Chicago.
Whole time
in
Chicago.
So I grew up in Chicago, in the suburbs of Chicago. Lived in the city for a while. I went to school in Indiana. Jules and I met in Chicago, and so that was where I was for the first like 3-4 years that I was out of. Well, actually, we left in 2019, so that would have been like 7 years that I was out of school. But I was really going hard at it in Chicago for about 3 or 4 years, and then we left in 2019 and quit my job, and I went at it full time for a little bit. Now I've got a day job again, but still going at it. So, yeah.
And you're all Chicago-ish?
I grew up here in Southern California.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Yes. I was just going to make my silly comment about Chicago, which is I think a lot of the people who start there, it's like a better place to start.
Oh, yeah,
it's so
definitely.
good.
Right? Because you start away from the Hollywood bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like there's less of a focus on it, whereas there's more of a theater scene.
100%. That's actually what I would say. When I came to LA, that was what I felt like was the biggest difference. I was thinking about the difference in the scene, and I thought one of them was that in Chicago, you were so far removed from the results. So you were like, if you got like, and we had this, you would get 30 people to a play, and you'd be like, I just won the Oscar. Like it felt like the best thing in the world, because you know the studios, a lot of them were black box. A lot of the capacity was like 30 people, so 30 people, like you sold out. You know, so whereas here in LA, I feel like because you're so close to the tip top. You know, you could walk down the street and see Tom Hanks, you know, so like you're right next to it. So there's an element of, I feel like in LA, you get 30 people to a play and you'd be like, I stink, I should quit. Nobody wants to see me, you know, only 30 people came out. But, you know, so I definitely agree with you. I definitely feel like that's a big difference in Chicago to LA.
It's kind of funny and a little bit sad when you were saying that you were in middle school, and I feel like that happened to me too, and there's so many middle schoolers, especially middle school boys, and maybe I'm saying this because I used to teach too, who are so against going the theater route. You know, you gotta play sports, and it's so sad how many talented kids there are out there. I don't want to be in theater, Mom. I want to like get girls. What are you gonna do this weekend? Gonna go to the movies.
Yeah, definitely.
Jared, tell your story.
Okay. When I was in 5th grade, I got cast in a kindergarten play.
But by the way, I'm going to interrupt and say, your director just told you to go.
That's right.
I just want everyone to know, just in case you think we're going sexist and having the two men go first,
We're not.
the person who identifies as female and directs told the man to go next.
That's
Go for
right.
Jared.
That's true.
Actually, when I was in 5th grade, I got cast in a play of Lewis and Clark, and I got cast as Sacagawea's French husband, and he was the comic relief. And I had this wonderful French
my
accent,
gosh.
and I just leaned heavily into that role. I could not get enough. And about 2 days before the play went up, we had one showing, because it was a 5th grade thing, it was a one-time thing. I got sick. I got really sick. I got fever, and I have this fond memory of the day before the play supposed to start, the drama/music teacher comes to our house, and she's checking in on me. Can you do it? Can you please do it? I couldn't do it. I really felt
Hollywood
so terribly.
producer.
Yeah, seriously. Like, come on.
And I couldn't. And then this girl named Madeline learned my lines in a day. I guess it wasn't as big of a part as
And she nailed the accent?
I don't think she did. I don't
Yeah,
think anyone could
you were missed.
Sacagawea's
You were missed.
husband as well as I could have. But about 5 years ago, I was talking to my mom, and I was telling her this story when I was back in Chicago visiting, and she said, "Oh, she didn't come to check on you. She came to pick up the costume."
No.
My whole world was blown. I thought she was trying to convince me, please,
Oh my
we
gosh.
need you. No, we just need the costume back for Madeline. She's already got her lines down. She's ready to go.
Oh.
And I never stepped
I
on
love
the
that.
boards for 20 years until after I graduated college. I'm not formally trained, I suppose. I took classes, but I don't have a bachelor's in it. And then when I came home from Chicago for my undergrad, my older sister got me improv lessons at Second City for my 23rd birthday and said, "Do this is you." And I did it, and I went through the full year program, and it was wonderful. I had such a blast. And then I didn't do it for another 6 years. I thought, okay, that was fun. Now I need a job. I need healthcare. It never really clicked in my young 20s that you could pursue this, that this could be a profession, until I was about 28, 29, and it hit me. Oh my God, I'm almost 30. I got to give this a try. And then I got back in it, started taking classes, went back to Second City, did the conservatory program, did that for the year, and then after that, just as green as ever, started auditioning, threw together a headshot and resume with, I guess, one line on it. Currently in the second sermon.
You're trained. That's a huge thing.
Um,
What a nice thing to be seen by your sister like that.
Yeah,
that's
it really
that's
was.
really nice.
It really was.
Yeah.
I have a lot to thank for them. And my first audition ever was for Macbeth, and I went to audition for Macbeth. And I went for Macbeth, and I memorized the monologue for Macbeth as Macbeth, doing Macbeth. I want Macbeth.
You can say it in here. We're not in a theater.
And I know, right? And
Get it out while you can.
Which is a pretty big departure from improv
It's a
comedy.
big part.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I was doing, Jeff. I made every mistake in the book. I remember walking out of the audition as nervous as ever. Also, I was early because we had a Second City show going on, and so she couldn't get into the room, so I was auditioning in the hallway with all the other actors watching me. As nervous as could be, I went up on my lines, I asked to restart, and on the drive home, I'm telling one of my buddies who I was in Second City with, who was an experienced, trained actor, about how the audition went, and he kept saying, "You did what? Wait, what did you do? You told her that you have no experience? Wait, you auditioned for Mackers as Mackers? You don't do that. Wait, you what? You did all this? You did all this?" I made every mistake in the book. And about a week later, another audition went up for I Hate Hamlet.
Yeah.
And it was a comedy, and I thought, I don't know what the hell I'm doing, and I have nothing to lose. And so I went, and on the drive there, I called that same friend and asked him about 20 questions. What do? I memorized a monologue. It calls for a newspaper. I brought a newspaper. He said, no, don't bring a newspaper. You mime it. I said, okay, I'm just going to look at them, and I'm going to say the lines. He said, no, you look at a spot behind them. Pick a spot. Look. So I got a crash course in 20 minutes on the drive to the audition, and I was as loose as ever, and I got the lead with another close friend of mine, and the rest is history.
Wow.
So a late start, but a quick turnaround.
Yeah, I got really lucky. And as you were saying, Chicago is such a wonderful city for getting started and for doing theater. Things started to hit. I was doing about 3-4 plays a year. Lucky enough to meet these guys. I think my first or second year doing theater, and never looked back.
I would think, this is dumb, but I would think like Second Cities might be one of the best places to start anyway, right? Because it's so intensive, but it's also so welcoming. Like, it's not like drama school, but it is.
Without bashing my former environment, it is and it isn't. It can be very welcoming, and it was for me, and it's a wonderful community. You meet great people there. At the same time, and nothing against them.
No, yeah.
But it is a business, and there is a bit of a tendency to get caught up in the massive faces that loom above everyone. There's Farley, there's Faye, there's Polar. You could be one of them too.
Pay for another class.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I also took classes at Second City, and obviously it's a great education, but there's a little bit of a corporate element.
And super competitive too, huh?
Yes.
Yeah.
Second City's characters, like, help me out here. I don't know what.
Groundling
like
is more characters. That's more improv,
okay.
right?
It's more improv and
Okay.
scene-based and
But
sketch writing.
they also do have
Got
acting classes. They have a number of classes.
I just know like the behemoths of these improv studios are like, Groundlings are like characters or what IO used to be, or it's back now in Chicago. So I was just curious.
Yeah, very improv-based, very, very heady, too. There were 3 big improv studios in Chicago. One, I think, got shut down. I think IO got shut down.
It came back.
Oh, it did?
It came back,
wonderful.
yeah.
Second City tends to be more of the head, I would say, and IO is more of the heart. And then there's one called The Annoyance, which is the X Factor. Anything goes at The Annoyance.
But still, as usual, people who train in comedy can slide right into drama. And people who train in drama are never funny.
Yeah, I do.
You know what I mean?
Oh my God, yeah.
That brings up bad memories for me.
Wait, Bailey, tell.
No,
All right, it's your turn then.
Okay, it's my turn.
Fearless director. By the way.
I'm scared all the time. So growing up, we didn't have performers in the, like, we didn't have actors in the family, but we had artists, we had poets, we've had great, drawers and things like that. So I grew up basically watching Grease and Rear Window on repeat, which is like a strange combination. And our parents were super conservative about what we would watch. And I think that was an element of like all of us being girls. So it was like, oh, they don't want to watch Jurassic Park, and it's too scary, and we probably don't want to teach them violence, So like we weren't even like allowed to watch Power Rangers and things like that. But we were also watching on the sly my grandmother's soap operas, which is incredibly inappropriate for young children to watch. So similar to Dave, I would recreate these scenarios with my Barbies. And, characters, again, like Winnie the Pooh and, all these other storybook characters. And I went through the phases of childhood of thinking like, I want to be this, I want to be that. I remember thinking one time I wanted to be a spy. Like I thought like truly the like come down into the like jewel like area and like steal the whatever. I was like, I want to be a secret agent. That sounds so cool. But I don't know when I learned that actor could be a thing, but I just remember it's somehow coming to my language. And I was like 8 or 9, I should say. And then, so my older sister was 10 or 11, and we were in the bathroom one day brushing our teeth. And my older sister was like, I'm going to be the first woman president and all this stuff. And she's like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I said, I want to be an actor. And she stopped and she said, let's find something practical for you.
Damn. How old was she?
She was young. She was really young. And you guys know my sister. And
Yeah.
shout out to my older sister.
But she had claimed, but like that's
Like-
president is more practical.
Yeah.
Right.
And like, and so I just went like inward. I just didn't talk about it ever again. I thought it was wrong. And, grappled with that moment for a huge part of my life, but it's what spurred me into sort of this work ethic that I established in undergrad. So when she went off to college, I had adults looking at me now saying, what do you want to do? What are you interested in? You've never really spoken up about what you're interested in. And I told my aunt, Amanda, that I wanted to be an actor. And she said, that's really cool. Aww. And she affirmed me that night. And I remember we were out to dinner and she took me home and she was like, now what are you going to go do? I'm like, tell Dad. She was like, you better. And truly my father was like sitting on the couch under a lamp reading a newspaper. And I was like, I have to tell you something. He's like, what? I'm like, I want to be an actor,
It's a coming out moment for a lot of us.
I was truly, I say like in the proverbial closet of like, because he looked at me like, what are you talking about? And we'd always kind of been in musicals at like church and things like that where you're like roped into it, but I'm like, I'm living, or I did mock trial in high school and I played a cop. I played like the cop who found the body and I won a county award for my portrayal as this cop. So I was like, look, I can be an actor. And my parents were like, interesting. And so I went to Cal State Fullerton and they have a rigorous audition program at the time, they've changed it now into their BFA program where essentially they go from 80 to 100 students trying to get into the musical theater BFA or the acting BFA track. And I was part of the 12 that made the acting BFA track. But it was, I did not know that. And it was those 2 years though, where I was just so behind. I felt left out. I felt like an idiot, to be honest. I felt like people would be like, why are you here? Because I'm like, it's my first acting class. They're like, why are you here? And I'm like, and so people would go out to parties. I'm like, I have to go home and study and I have to go read the New York Times about like what's happening on stage on Broadway and just immerse myself in this because I didn't even really know how to read a play. People would be like, thank you, 5. I'm like, what is everyone talking about? So I got my BFA in acting from Cal State Fullerton, and then I also studied at Steppenwolf West the summer before my junior year. And so that was like the bug of Chicago that I was like, okay, I'm too scared to go to Los Angeles. I have no idea what New York is about, but Chicago feels like I could have a full life there. And so I packed up my bags the day after Christmas and all my bags were already packed, but I flew out after Christmas and moved in with 2 friends from college. And then I met these.
I was going to say, I think we met shortly after.
We met shortly after because at the time my older sister was about to get married and I was her maid of honor. So I was like, I'm going to give myself 6 months. And after she gets married, then I'm really going to audition for things. And Tony, who still runs Theater Above the Law, he came into the distillery that I worked for at the time. And I was like, oh, I like your shirt. It was like a theatrical shirt. And he's like, thanks, I own a theater company. I was like, hi, I'm Bailey Castle. Like, totally turned on the charm. And he was like, yeah, we're holding auditions. And it was the first thing I auditioned for in Chicago. It was the first thing I booked. And truly, it was so serendipitous. The first rehearsal was the weekend after my sister's wedding. So I was like, this is meant to be. That's how I met all you guys.
And then in her maid of honor speech, she actually said, I'm doing a play and acting in Chicago. How's that president of the USA thinking for you?
Part of her speech, yes, 100%.
How does it feel to not be the president? They're like, please remove me. No, I mean, and like, I had to grapple with that thing that she said to me, but it was so helpful. I mean, when I look back on it, like, I would not have, I don't know, I wouldn't be who I am today without that moment happening. And I believe in that. And it helps now with the grit and the tenacity that you need to have while also being incredibly vulnerable and open-hearted and empathetic at the same time to create art that speaks to people. And doesn't shut people off. that is a truly like brick laying of the foundation of my life in a really positive way.
I have a very unexpected question for you, maybe, which is how many kids in the family? And you said all sisters?
All sisters. There's 3 of us.
3?
I'm the middle.
You're the middle.
I'm the middle, but I was the baby for a really long time. It was until like 9 years later that I became the middle kid. So I had both the experience of being the baby and the middle child.
The baby's often the entertainer.
Hey.
Right?
Hey. Often, yeah. And it was so interesting because my older sister she's so verbose. I mean, now I'm talking a lot too, but she just, and in a most complimentary way, because I don't know if she's going to listen to this podcast, but truly, like, she would talk so much and she had so much energy. And so I was like, ooh, like, I kind of understood. I'm like, I'm just going to be quiet at home. I was super quiet. My parents always thought something was wrong. And then I go to school and everyone thought I was a really good kid, which I was, and because my older sister was such a good student and such a good kid, so they're like, great, and there are castles in our class, and then they would sit me next to the quote-unquote troublemaker to, like, keep that person in line, and I just learned how to tell awesome jokes. But what you said about drama not always translating to comedy, one time in university, one of my professors, she was our farce professor, I had a meeting with her and she goes, comedy's hard, Bailey. And I was like, wait, what? I was kind of like, you try doing farce at 8 a.m. hungover. Like, it's really freaking hard. But I was like, no one's ever called me not funny. Like, what are you talking about? But yeah.
I am the anomaly of this group in that I am actually a musician. So I got into film because, quite frankly, I wanted to be useful for my husband. That is the honest to God reason why I got in. I'm not even joking.
And this is Jules talking.
Yep, hi. My name is Jules. So I am a musician, and I do have a background in musical theater. I was fortunate to major in it at Boston College, which we were talking about Groundlings and I.O. earlier. Amy Poehler went there, just saying.
Let's go. Shout out, Amy. What's up?
What's up, Amy? Let's hang out. So I went there, got an undergraduate degree. I was able to study abroad for a semester at a dramatic academy in London, which was life-changing for many, many reasons. Came back, did some Shakespeare, did some more musicals. Was very much on track to be an actor. I went to an audition in New York for a grad program, and I completely bombed it. Oh, and but it was such a serendipitous moment for me because I'm after the audition and I'm just like wandering around New York, and I just happened to stumble into a music store, and I just sit down and I just start playing the piano, and I just felt all of the stress and anxiety and the weight of it all just kind of leave and dissipate through my fingers. And I was like, if this isn't a sign from God or the universe that I'm meant to do music, then I don't know what is. So talking about a coming out story proverbially, my parents were always very, very supportive from day one of my acting and my performing, whatever, like having done musicals and show choir, which I did show choir before Glee came out. So just saying, I was the cool kid. Right? No, not at all. So did that, and my parents were always very supportive, being like, all right, cool, she's gonna be an actor, whatever, great. So they were actually very taken aback when I told them halfway through senior year, actually, I'm gonna do this music thing. And they were like, what? Whoa. Like, I thought we had this figured out. So it actually kind of took them a minute to get used to that. Is that my bell?
I put my phone on.
I just had to give you shit. I know. The computer.
The music's.
Yep.
But this one's too old.
Yep. No. I'm just giving you shit. No. So I've been a musician for however long now, and when Dave was like, "Hey, I really want to do this film thing, and I really want to make a film," I was like, "Well, shit. How do I make myself useful? Because I can act. I don't want to be an actor." And I'm a musician. What do I do? Well, I've kind of stage managed before. And I'm very organized. And I like, making to-do lists and stuff like that. So cool. I'll just be an assistant director. Great. That is how I will be useful to Dave. That is how I will help make his dream come true. And I was like, okay, cool. And there's elements of being a producer in that. So I helped with that. And so I started taking assistant director gigs for various indie films. Like a friend of mine who was a musician, is still a musician, and then got into film supervision. She reached out, and that's how I got my first gig and kind of got my feet wet as an AD. And then we kind of kept building our resume together from there. So I do still do indie film AD gigs. I do it with some friends. I do it otherwise. And yeah, that's what we did.
And I just want to hop in for a second because I didn't want to be too sappy with this, but since you brought up acting and
oh yes.
I am basically only where I'm at now because of Jules. I mean, in so many ways, but especially as an actor, because. So, and I didn't want to get out because I didn't want to talk too long about myself. But when I said I went to school for finance, and I was working for about, when we met, I think it was in 2015. So it was about 3 years that I had been working in finance, and I had been like on the weekends I would do classes at Second City. I do a class here or there. I was at a job I hated, just absolutely hated, for the first 2.5 years that I was out, basically 2 years. And I just had this dream, but like I wasn't doing a lot for it. And then I met Jules, and when I met Jules, she was like, Jules is 100%. She goes like, whatever she does like 1,000,000%. And so I met her, and she was going at being a musician harder than I'd like ever seen anybody try to do anything. And here I was being like, you know, I was working this day job, being like, yeah, I like want to be an actor, but like I've done like 4 classes and a play where I was, you know, the Nazi and a senior in high school.
The good Nazi.
You write it in like crayon. Good.
And I had, but sort of during my dreaming, I'd always wanted to go to this place called Black Box Acting. It was in Chicago. It was this great, just still is and was this great acting class. And I don't know what it was exactly about it, but something in the website and the way that they taught. And I was like, in my head, I'm like, one of these days I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to like work like whatever jobs, and I'm going to go to this acting class. And I kept saying that, but you know, I hadn't done it. And Jules and I had been dating for a few months, and I told her about this. And then after I told you about it, one day we were like sitting in my apartment, and you were like, just like on my computer, and I didn't know what you were doing. And then you said something like, hey, are you like free on like Wednesdays at like, you know, 7:30 p.m. or something? I was like, yeah. And she was like, you know, you were asking me like these other questions, and then you like turned the screen around, and you were like, so I signed you up for Black Box Acting Wednesdays at 7:30, and I was like, oh my God.
Whoa.
And that was really what started me going seriously at acting was you.
It was a real ballsy move on my part, because that could have gone one of 2 ways.
It's so funny. It's like, are you free Wednesdays like for the next 7 weeks? You're like,
well, because first it was like, because I don't think you had really even auditioned since that time. And so I was like, so Wednesday at like 6 o'clock, are you free? Great. So you have an audition.
Did you do
for Black Box?
Did you do Black Box before or after the play that we all met?
I think before.
Before.
Yeah, it was
Okay.
before.
Cool.
It was before. It was back
Cool.
when Audrey Francis
Yeah.
ran and owned the studio.
Hell yeah.
I'll stop.
Co-artistic director now at Steppenwolf.
Yeah,
Let's go.
Yes.
She's incredible. She was my teacher for level A or whatever, which I think I really lucked out because I don't think she was really teaching much anymore then. And she just was randomly teaching this class, and it was incredible. So I had to say that because you brought up.
That's cool.
Thank you. I'll end the sappiness with this, which is that I still have a picture on my phone from when I told him that I signed him up for this class. And it is just this like little giddy 7-year-old being like just grinning from ear to ear, and it was really cute because I was like because again we hadn't been dating for that long, so I was like he's either gonna be real fucking pissed or he's gonna be like yeah that's great, and luckily it was the latter. So yeah, that's how we got into it.
Actually, I'm going to, in a complimentary way, call you out.
Do it.
In that it is the rare fucking person who meets someone that they're interested in a relationship with and then guides them towards the arts.
Yeah.
You know what I'm getting at?
I was like, you're gonna do this struggle with me. We're both gonna die financially struggling.
That's so
fine.
funny.
It's fine. No, I mean this is honestly what it is. I think the most attractive quality in a person is when they have a passion for something, whatever it is. And I saw that he had it, but he had never really nurtured it, or he hadn't really explored it. And I wanted to see that passion be ignited. And I wanted to see kind of what the kind of man that he could be with that in his life. Whether he would, quit it full time or whatever, had remained to be seen. But like, at least at that point, I was like, look, this could make you happy. It makes me happy being in the arts. And so I was like, yeah, all right, go for it.
And it was just one night a week. I mean, a pretty gentle way to start. You know what I mean? It wasn't like quit your job and move to London and work, 10 hours a day, 5 days. You know what I mean? It was a gentle way to start.
I think also too, like, I was like 22 when we met. And I had just gotten out of college. I just, really hit the ground running with music. And I was still very bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. So I was just kind of like, yeah, like, do it. You can do it. I'm doing it. You do it. It'll be fine.
Aren't we all still bright-eyed and
Right.
bushy-tailed?
No, absolutely not jaded at all. It's fine.
Oh, I still have my bushy tail.
Do you?
I still have my bushy
Do
tail.
you?
Yeah.
Mine leaves a lot of times. But it comes back eventually.
Mm-hmm.
But, no, I mean, I think just... that was the gist of that.
And we don't realize it when we're 22, but you're still a kid at 22, but
Oh
you
my
feel
God.
grown up.
Yeah.
Oh, this is what I was gonna say. Just that, like, because we do talk about how, I know we've mentioned it even in this conversation, how like the arts cannot be at least the indie arts are not always the most rewarding, particularly financially or whatever. And I think at the time, part of what spurred me to be like, yeah, just do it, was that I was not working like a day job per se. Or if I was about to quit it. And so I was like kind of working the side gigs, the waiter jobs, the whatever else. Like I was just doing that. And so for me, I was kind of like, well, hey, like if I'm doing it, like you should do it. But
Join me.
Right, join me in the struggle.
Dave's parents are listening to this podcast right now being like, it was Jules.
Oh my God. There have been times where I was just like, they must deep down hate me for what I have done.
They love it.
I know.
Dave's like,
No. Mike and Donna, if you're listening, they love it. We know.
Because they would be actually.
I know. They'd be very upset. But there have been times, there were times like
No.
before I really knew your parents where I was like, oh my God, they're going to fucking hate me. Because I just dragged their son out of, financial success down to the dungeons of ours.
It wasn't exactly financial success.
It was more money than what I was making at the time.
But by the way, so 22, how old was Dave?
25.
That's still young enough to try something. Like it wasn't like, quitting your job at 42 when like there's no way to restart. Like
Right.
you could reboot
Right.
if the first couple years sucked serious ass.
Right.
You could have gone back to finance. It would have been fine. You did not ruin his life. That's all I'm saying.
No, we're all here because of it.
Remains to be seen.
So there was a mention of the play that you all met on.
Yes.
It seems like
Oh
that's
my
who
gosh.
wants to jump in. What was the play?
It was called The Ages of Man by Thornton Wilder. And it was at Theater Above the Law. Shout out to Theater Above the Law.
Theater Above the
We gotta
Law.
shout them out. And
Wait, Above the Law?
Above the Law.
Okay.
Theater
Yes.
Above the Law. And there's two other people in the show with us. Jules was not in the show, but we met Jules through Dave.
I just kind of inserted myself into this
Oh,
group.
hell
I'm just
yeah.
going to go
We
ahead
were
and
like,
say that.
hell
No, I did. I just weaseled myself in.
You did not. There's no weaseling at all. We're like, awesome.
There was 2 adults, 3 kids in the play.
Oh, I forgot about the children. Oh my gosh.
The children. How can you forget the children?
I think our young. Oh my gosh, I forgot about
Wait,
them.
but
I think
you guys were playing children too.
no, yeah, and then we had
Babies, yes.
the
Yeah,
guys.
yeah.
Some of the adult men played babies, like to make that sort of societal comment that children are smarter than adults. But there were actual.
I thought it was that men are babies. Just kidding.
Also that. But then there were actual children in the show, and I think one of the youngest was she was like 6 or something like that. 6, 8, 12. Like they were young.
They were young, yeah, because that was, and is Theater Above the Law is one of their
mission statement,
missions,
yeah.
is to always involve a young cast member in the plays. So, in one way or another, be it in the cast or as like understudies, they're almost always involved in the plays. So, yeah.
Who was else? I don't want to keep talking about it. You guys did popcorn. Someone else to talk about.
4 vignettes in The Ages of Man, and the artistic director chose to do 3 of them. if I'm not mistaken, it was childhood, and then basically
I don't remember.
It was
the
like
names.
childhood, middle age, like middle age, and then like a place beyond the river. And you're like,
right,
what?
childhood was where the two boys were playing babies.
I was just say I don't remember by the names. I remember me and Hartley as babies, you two married, and then
Right.
that's how I remember.
Which, to
it.
clarify, it was two grown-ass men in onesies and pacifiers.
in radio flyers.
I had
It was
to
cute.
I had to pull Dave Cameli out in that radio flyer, and
Yeah.
like one time I like bumped it up against those stairs and was like, whoops, like, it's just like wild. And it was one of those black box theaters, 30 people
30
at
people,
most, all the way up at Jarvis Stop, so almost in Evanston. So it was just like out of the way basically for people to come see it. But
it was just so much fun.
It was so much fun.
We all didn't know each other beforehand, so we met literally doing this play, and it was just so much fun. I mean, the rehearsals were fun, and then we always laugh because there's a story where was it after opening night or was it the second weekend when you met the critic? And you and Hartley, and you were like.
it was like third weekend.
Was it the third
when
weekend? Because we ended
Dimitri came.
Yeah, Dimitri.
Shout out
yeah.
Dimitri.
So there's do you know the Chicago Reader by any chance? It's like one of the Chicago publications. The big ones as it relates to like reviews for theaters and whatnot. There's the Tribune, and then there's a number of others, and one of the bigger ones is Chicago Reader. And one of the weekends, I don't remember if it was the second or the third.
It was
or
like
whatever.
the third Sunday. It was like the third Sunday.
Yeah.
And
we did the play, and
we did the play.
and I don't remember like if did we think it like didn't go well or
No,
something?
it
or?
went perfectly that night.
Okay.
That's the thing, because there was a whole comedic bit about like the physical comedy of that first one, especially with you guys as babies and you coming on as the Jeremy. I'm looking at Jeremy right now. Podcasts are a visual medium. And Jeremy would come on as this incredible cop, like park cop. And I was like this woman who had a Brooklyn accent and she just had her head in the clouds. But the physical comedy, our director did not want to choreograph the physical comedy. He wanted it to be spur of the moment, like how parents, quote unquote, parents experience their children. And I strongly disagreed with that choice. But because to hit it every night, I'm like, it's not going to be funny then because we don't know what we're doing up here. And I will say that on this podcast. I'm okay to say that.
Fair.
Keep that in. And so that afternoon when the Chicago Reader came, unbeknownst to us, it just went perfectly. It was like, boom, boom, like whatever we were all doing, we were in it. And I was like, that was out of body moments where I'm like, I can't believe this is happening, and I could not believe the reader had seen that episode, that show.
But then it was like you and Hartley were on there waiting for the red line or something, and you were, and Hartley, he was one of the other actors in it.
Yeah.
David Hartley.
There's so many Davids.
Yeah. And you guys were like waiting for the red line,
yeah.
Right? And you were talking, and then didn't you say?
And the guy came up to us. He's like, "You guys did such a great job today." We were like,
but you didn't know it was him. Did you know? I didn't think you knew it was him. I thought Hartley said you didn't know it was him.
I think we were like, "Oh, cool." Yeah, at the time, I think we were just kind of like giggly, like, "Oh my god, someone said like a really nice thing to us," and we were agreeing, like, "Oh my god, it really went well today."
Yeah.
And then I'm doing that thing where I'm slouching in my chair, and then I think we all realized, like, that was the reader. Like, there's something that came in, like, into our heads.
And it was really cool because after that experience, he wrote a review, and this was like the first time I had been reviewed. It was the first time you had been reviewed in Chicago. Certainly, I don't know. If,
the only times I've been reviewed was like college performances.
I don't remember if you had any of your previous plays gotten reviewed.
I mean, I probably would have been reviewed in the 5th grade play.
So basically, this was our first time with all of this, and he comes out with this little blurb, and in the blurb, and this is a guy that has seen all these Chicago plays, and he said, "This is likely the best storefront play I've seen all year." And we were like over the moon. We were like, this is what I was talking about. Where in Chicago, that was like you had given me 5 Oscars and $10 million. It was. I mean, we were all just. It was incredible. I mean, we were just blown away. And
all of a sudden, people were like calling up the theater, like,
and
I have to come
sold
see
out.
this play.
Yeah, and it was just great. And I mean, and Tony was like, I should have done an extension because like he didn't, he hadn't secured an extension. But, and then that kind of got us all off and running. I feel like.
Yeah, especially together as a group, for sure.
I had to mime a cannonball, setting up a cannonball. And I walked out of the theater, and there was this guy just waiting. It was just him and the artistic director, Tony. He goes, man, I could watch your cannonball all day long. And I was like, oh, thanks, man. And I walked out, and that was him. He loved our show so much. Everything was perfect.
Yeah.
Jeremy had to pretend to be this bus driver who were like he'd like bring out a cannonball from underneath the bus. And it was me and the 3 little girls. I was playing Jeremy's wife, and the 3 little girls were our kids. And we would like peek and like watch. I could tell the girls wanted to always like watch what you were doing because it was so good. And I'd be like, stop, look down, you know.
But it was one of those things where it was just like doing the play was incredible, but what was also just as fun was being backstage, waiting for the show to go on, in between shows if you weren't on, because not all of us were on. Like you weren't.
I was on all three, and I was like, out of my way, I gotta make a quick change.
But the rest of us weren't in all 3 of them, and so like you'd be backstage telling jokes, like Hartley again would be back watching football every time on his phone,
watching football, eating Indian food.
So it was just like all these inside jokes that developed, and that we all got really close, and the play went well, and it was just a great experience. It was I feel like what you dream of in theater when it goes right.
And then after that, I think was it the next play that then you 2 were in a play together?
That was a couple years after.
It was a couple years after.
That was right when we were moving out.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was going to be my next question, is that people always, right, that's the common thing in theaters. You form a bond, and then the show ends, and you lose the bond. So how did you all keep the bond?
We all became ensemble members.
So did you form your own thing, or did you all join an ensemble?
Tony asked us to join.
The
Tony
artistic
wanted to
director.
form an ensemble for Theater of the Law, and I think he asked all of us.
Yeah.
But had he not, I might go out on a ledge and say we probably would have kept in touch because it was...
Yeah.
Certain plays you don't talk to anybody else, certain plays you pick one friend that's like, oh, we really vibe together. But for some reason, we all clicked. We were also pretty close in age and similar interests. I think we were all in similar spots in our careers, just moving to Chicago, just getting going in that city.
Yeah.
All in it together.
Definitely.
I remember during the run, like Jeremy was in a different. You were like in a reading at one point, and maybe it was just right after the run. And then like we went to go see it. It was just like,
that was still one of the best readings I've seen. That was
that was cool. But it was just like, yeah, of course, let's go. Like, and that was something so lovely about Chicago. How like
the support of the community.
The support of the community, but also it's so obviously like walkable and you can get to places so easy. So it's like a no-brainer to be like, of course, let's get on
to get beers because everybody can take the red line or take the bus or whatever.
That was. I mean, I agree with you. I think that there was a certain like community aspect of Chicago in general, and even like also in the music scene too, because like. I came up in the Chicago music scene, and that was absolutely a great way to kind of cut my teeth, right, and kind of get ready for the grittier nature of LA. But even so, and I think that kind of transcends to Chicago theater. And to your point, what was great was that like it was so common for you to just go to the tavern down the street and just go get a couple beers afterwards and talk about the play, hang out, like, and then, I got an Uber. Okay, it's like 10 minutes. Okay, 15 minutes. All right, go take the red line. Like, it was just, that was such a part of the theater going experience.
Definitely. That's
definitely not here. Like, they're just, I've not done theater in LA. I haven't explored it, but I would go out on a limb to take your words and say that, it's not really there to the capacity that it would be.
And
I'd push back on that.
You push back on that?
I mean, it's obviously not like Chicago, how like, you can get on a bus and get on the train as easy. But like when you find those pockets, like the Atwater Village, like the like Echo Theater, Circle X, I'm missing a couple that are in like that pocket at Atwater Village. It's like such a great little spot of incredible work that's going on that then it's walkable within that little pocket of things to then go like grab a drink or something like that.
I was going to say I feel like that's the big limitation, if I would put it, is I think a lot of it's just geographics. LA's so big and it's so spread out, and public transportation is not what it is in Chicago. So like that was, I mean, that to be honest, as much as we liked each other, that it was easy
accessible
to go out. I mean, because if you have to drive, if you have to,
we're accessible to
you're in
each other.
Hollywood and I'm in Santa Monica, wherever. I mean, it's different.
Well, and also too, like I think to your point, Jer, we were all coming up together, like from a career standpoint, from a personal standpoint, like, we were all really kind of bonding on that aspect of our lives, if you will. You know, I mean, we had all kind of essentially taken a risk, you know. Bailey particularly had moved literally halfway across the country. Like, so we were all kind of like very much like trying to find ourselves / trying to find our place in the world / trying to find our place in our careers, you know. So I think it was definitely serendipitous in that sense. And it continued to grow in that, you know, Bailey and Dave did another play together. These guys would come see my shows, which was really cool. And, you know, that was when I was still kind of developing my craft as well. So really a lot of just like support and camaraderie in the fact that we were all very much in the nation stages of our careers.
All right, 2 questions for the room.
Yeah.
Whoever answers first gets to answer. But question 1 is, am I right to think that, like, if you're in a black box play in LA and, like, the LA Weekly writes a good review, it doesn't mean it's going to be full the next weekend? Whereas in Chicago, like, there is a theater scene, and if you get a great review, all of a sudden it's full, like you're selling out, you said. Is that a true assumption? Because I actually have a chip on my motherfucking shoulder that LA just doesn't support live theater.
I think that's fair. I think it's hard to get the reviewers out, to be honest, and it's hard to get like an actual like critical review in the sense of that's not just, I'll say it, like book report coming out. It's like, okay, you just like spoiled the play for everybody,
Right.
you know, and they're like, it's good, and you're like, all right. But I was in a play during the springtime this year, and a lot of it was word of mouth that got butts in seats, to be honest. And I think ultimately that's what, like, especially like indie theater, if you will, that's not the Broadway tours that come through, which are also fabulous and in their own right, you know, like exist for their own things. It's word of mouth. But yeah, I mean, I don't know how to compare that with, Jared, what about you? You've been in a few plays here.
I think it might depend on the theater. I think there's followings in theaters.
That's a good point.
I'm a company member of the one that Bailey was in. I've been in a couple plays there. It's in Beverly Hills. There's a bit of an older crowd too, and they're tight-knit. It's what they do on a Sunday afternoon. It might depend on the specific theater. But I think there's a few publications out there that if you get written up, it'll spread.
It'll spread?
But I think you're right. It's not like Chicago.
Yeah, and so now the second question was the reason that play turned out so well the chemistry of these friendships, like, and that's why the person running that theater had you become ensemble, because the truth is there was a little bit of magic going on?
I'm going to say yes, and in true improv fashion. I think that is first and foremost the reason, but also I think that the play worked in a black box theater. As I mentioned, it was 3 vignettes. The second one in particular, when Bailey and I were playing mom and dad, and with the 3 little girls, we enter the world of the girls' imagination. The parents have a strained relationship, and the girls know it, and they see it, and so as an escapism, they play make-believe, and then all of a sudden we're in their make-believe world, and that world in a black box theater just lends itself to success. You don't need much in the black box. You just use your own imagination as we're entering the girls' imagination, literally miming driving a huge bus and bringing out a cannonball, you know, as it's cowboys and Indians and that kind of thing going on. So I think that might have been the second part of the success too.
You know, and this is a thought. I don't know if I could say that it's just a thought I have, and I don't know if this would be true all around. But one of the things I know is like, you know, in LA, everybody's in the business in one way or another, seemingly. In Chicago, there was a little bit of a novelty. So, like, I worked in finance. So everybody, I was like, they were like, oh, you're in a play? Like, wow, that's so cool. Like, because nobody, like, did that. You went to the office and you went home, or you went on vacation. You know, and so I, like, had a bunch of coworkers come see our play because they were like, this is so cool. Like, you know, and my boss at the time, a really good guy, mentor of mine, and he did like almost like a field trip where, like, after work, like him and like 7 other my coworkers came to see, you know. So I think there was a little bit of that maybe in Chicago too, where, like, you know, you said you were an actor or you said you were a musician, and it wasn't the most common thing to run into, even though the communities were there. You didn't run into an actor every 2 feet, which you do here, you know. So
Yeah.
And there, not everyone assumed you suck. Like, let's be honest. Like, here, when someone you never met before says, I came here to be an actor. Does anyone say, I'll come see your play?
Right.
Like it's a different vibe.
Yeah.
But that's partially because we're overwhelmed with the people that maybe shouldn't be doing it.
That's kind of what I was going to speak to. No, that's because I have become the most jaded asshole in any music show. Like, truly. Like, I'm like, I either think of a million things that I would have done differently or what I'd like or what I don't like. And it's because you just get oversaturated. Like, you start to see so many plays or so many concerts and so many, in my case, so many open mics, so many songwriting nights. Like, you see so much of it that you then kind of become seasoned to, like, okay, what is actually good and what isn't. And so when you then, to your point, get like this overabundance of everyone and their mother trying to come to LA, on the one hand, it's great because you have a lot of talent to choose from. On the other hand, it's very competitive because everyone who came was the best in their town. And now they got to figure out how to be one of, if not the best in LA. And how do you do that? And that can be a very, very eye-opening and jading experience, I think. Because I think it really does kind of separate people in terms of like, okay, was this something that you happen to be really good at in a small pool? Or do you actually have the talent and the grit and the, tenacity to really stick it out and, treat it as a business? That's the other part too, that I feel that if you're going to really make it a career, then you have to view yourself as an entrepreneur. You have to be able to, really take it up as, okay, how am I going to put myself out there as a way that stands out in the crowd so that people remember me, right? Whether it's, and of course it's developing your craft, because that's the most important thing. Like, if you suck, then go home. But how do you market it? How do you pay for it? Like, how do you book it? What do you do on social media? Like, there's just so much of what goes into it. Once you decide to make it a career, that it becomes then really the majority of your time doesn't even end up being on stage, right? It's everything that leads up to being on stage or being in that in front of the camera. So I think once you've put in the time and effort, you've kind of then been like, okay, this is what it takes, and either I'm going to do it or I'm not. And then people who might be like, well, LA's a tough city to live in. Yeah, it is, because it shows you what you need to do. It shows you what you need to do, and what, if you're not going to do it, then go home. I know, I just sucked the air out of the room with that.
Absolutely. No, you set me up. Well, so here's the question I was waiting to ask, which is, so did you all, who decided to move to LA first? Was it a group decision? Was it one by one?
Oh my God. What if we told you, Jeff? We're like, we all live under the same roof.
It was a blood pact, actually.
That would be my favorite answer, is like, we were at a bar and the four of us were talking and we just dared each other, and then we did it the next week. And we all moved in with Bailey's parents for a month while we looked for somewhere in LA.
We filmed back home at Bailey's parents' house.
Exactly.
Me and Jules came out first. We came out in 2019. Now, to be fair, you grew up here, so...
No.
Jared moved out first.
So we were first.
Oh, that's right. You were 2020.
But, you grew up in Orange County, so when you came back...
You're in my hometown.
But Orange County's not LA. People from LA think Orange County's part of LA, and people from Orange County are like,
oh my gosh, no, it's not. Thank you for saying that. Yeah, everyone's like, oh, you moved back to LA. I'm like, I didn't move back to LA. I'm moving to LA. I'm not from LA at all.
It's such a different animal.
Oh, completely.
Well, there you go. Then I guess in that case, we were the first to come. So we moved out in
May of 2019.
Yeah, the spring of 2019. And then Jared moved out February 2020.
March 2020.
March 2020.
About 2 weeks before everything shut down.
Yeah,
I was really excited too.
Like March 1st, because it was like the second week of March.
It was March 1st, and got here about March 7th, and I was like, "What's up, LA? Let's go!" And there's tumbleweeds going by. Where the hell is everybody?
Jeremy was like trying to get rid of all of stuff. I still have that mirror. That, like, from your hallway. I still have that mirror. I moved across the country with that mirror. I love that mirror.
2019, 2020, 2021.
Yeah. August 2021.
Mm-hmm. Now, was that before our wedding or after?
It was like the weekend of their wedding. I had all my stuff in a U-Haul that was arriving like 2 weeks later, and then just 2 massive suitcases. And the Uber driver picked me up, and I was feeling all this stuff. I'm like, what have I just done? And honestly, very hungover because I drank so much the night before, saying goodbye to Chicago. And the Uber driver was like, "What? You just moved here?" I'm like, "Yes." I was like, so sad. Yeah. It was the weekend of your wedding. So then after you guys got married, my aunt, that Aunt Amanda, picked me up from San Diego because I didn't have a car, and she took me to my parents' house so I could pick up the car my grandmother's car, so that I'd still drive. And then she drove her car separately while I drove to my place now and helped me like go to Target and buy all this stuff to move to Los Angeles. Yeah.
Damn.
Moral of the story is wherever one goes, we all go.
So true. And then David Hartley, shout out David Hartley.
Yeah,
He's in Texas, but we still have our massive group text.
We do.
But was it tough? Was it tough those 2 to 3 years that you were in separate cities? Was there
Jeremy was like, right?
It was strange for sure.
I can say our first year, which you came out of basically the tail end of, was really rough.
Yeah.
For our first year in LA, because
Yeah.
it was, you had a couple connections.
I knew
but
two
like
people.
we didn't know anyone really out here. It was rough. I mean, if I have to make an assessment of LA based on our time with it, I would say it's a city that doesn't really want you or need you and lets you know it.
Yep.
And that's how it felt in that first year. We felt like we came out bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and it was tough. I mean, I just quit my job, and you were
Yeah, I
in
mean,
your job, and
we were very much living the starving artist life, and it was quite a grind emotionally, financially, physically. And, you know, we were basically like lying to everyone, being like, it's fine, we're fine, everything's great out here, we're loving life, like we're doing so well. So it was very lonely, actually. We were really, really alone. I mean, I had two connections out here. One was a professional connection, and the other was a girl who used to be my best friend. And I remember we moved here in May, my birthday's in June, and I called her up, and I'd been trying to get a hold of her. I called her up being like, hey, it's my birthday, and I know no one except for my then boyfriend. Can we hang out? Radio silence, never heard anything. So I literally had no friends. I had no one, and our close friends were still in Chicago. And so one by one, they came back to us.
Okay, Dave and Jeremy would like legit FaceTime me, like going to the beach. I'm like shivering in Chicago winter. I'm like, what the fuck, you know? Honestly, I think if the pandemic hadn't hit, I'd be bouncing back and forth between New York and Chicago still, because that was the plan, to go to New York. Because I've been accepted to the Atlantic Acting School, and I was like, can't go now.
Right.
And I'd probably still be out there and maybe thinking like, what does LA have to do? I'd probably be thinking about that, but I think I'd probably still be over there.
And then you, Jared,
You
had
got
your
accepted to the Atlantic Acting School?
Their summer program, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
The ass?
No, it's actually the AS. Okay, QUAAS, Atlantic Acting School. It's the AS.
that one really landed? By the way, Bailey's like giggling uncontrollably.
So funny.
But by the way, it must have been a big deal when the world shut down to be together to be in the
I
same
was
tent.
going to say, Jared, you because you had your unfortunate experience where you had moved in. I don't know if you want to.
Do you want to share that horrible memory? I'm just kidding.
Just
Well, you moved into that
a
house.
roommate
You
thing.
were in your uncle's house, and you were going to be there for a little bit, and then you went
Right. Yeah. I mean, LA is difficult in general. Maybe because you guys had paved the way a little bit, so I knew a little bit more what to expect. Having you guys here also really helped. I think we came in a little bit differently. I think I came in knowing like this is going to be a marathon, and this is going to be really a grind. We were, I think, all making waves in Chicago, and I had heard from a lot of people in LA before I moved that once you move, you're at the bottom of the totem pole once again. Nobody cares that you got an amazing review in the Chicago.
Shout out, Dimitri.
But yeah, I think it's LA. It's gonna be tough, but
I
like you
remember-
said, you got to do it. So.
No, I was cutting you off. I remember I was like, it was, early 2021 then, and I was waiting out Chicago winter at home. I was like there for 3 months, and Jeremy was like, can I come over? And I was like, yeah, sure, of course. And it was like Friday. You drove like 2 hours on a Friday afternoon to come to my house in Orange County. And I was like, oh, okay, just like, but FYI, like my aunt and my cousin, they're coming over. We're going to watch this.
Speaking of shout out Aunt Amanda.
Aunt Amanda.
Yeah.
And I'm like, they're gonna come over. We're gonna watch The Sixth Sense. And he's like, oh, I'm down. I was like, I think
I'm there.
Jeremy hasn't seen People in a while. Because I was trying to be like, don't bother. It's gonna be 2 hours to come watch a movie. Like, don't do it. And you're like, I'm here. I'm like,
I'm here.
Okay. Yeah.
I need to talk to
There were a
somebody
lot
else.
of us in that position.
Yeah, of
A lot of
course.
it. Even I was living with a wife and a kid, and we were still like feeling completely isolated and desperate to get people to just hang out in the backyard with us. You know,
I wish we'd known each other then, Jeff. What could have been?
we had the best hangs in the backyard.
Oh my God.
It's key to have outdoors because we were afraid to be indoors together.
I know.
Yeah.
Literally,
know.
like friends had to like use the guest bathroom like through a sliding door because we
Yeah.
were like, don't walk through our kitchen because what if you give us, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wipe yourself with Clorox.
So funny how worried we were at first.
I know. Yeah.
Can you imagine trying to explain that to like
No.
future generations? No. Once upon a time.
No, I cannot.
That was crazy. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
eventually there'll be a generation that grows up with like gas masks like at school.
That's
so.
true. Now, Jared, did you meet Yas before you moved out here?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought. That's what I thought. And
We were there for your second date, right?
yes,
Was
we
that your
were.
second
Yes,
date?
we
That's
were.
right.
Yeah.
We were there.
This is a priori information that the audience doesn't know. So you just mentioned yes.
Oh, sorry.
Let's
No, but you
get
tell
the full
story
thing.
So much better.
Do so Jer is married to a wonderful woman named Yasi, and they have 2 boys, Zev and Leori. And before all this, we Jeremy and Yasi both went on an app called J-Swipe, which
You're
is
getting really into the weeds.
yeah.
Oh my gosh,
I'm getting
shout out
into it.
J-Swipe.
I'm getting
Look,
into it.
I was on J-Date when it was dial-up.
Okay,
There's so much to discuss.
See, there we go. It's relevant. It's relevant. And they met and they hit it off. And then their second date, Jared, because again, like he didn't really know anybody, neither did we. Jared was like, "Hey, so I'm going to this concert thing with this girl that I'm seeing and her friend. Do you want to come?" And we're like, "We're gonna meet Jeremy's maybe girlfriend." Like, yeah, sure, let's do it. And so we go, and everything was great from there. And yeah, no, I mean, I don't know, we were all just like dancing basically to this like live music.
Not at first we weren't.
No, we were all just chatting at first.
We showed.
I think Jer actually wants to tell this story.
Yeah.
Screeching. It was International Music Day at this outdoor concert in the park, and I showed up and I was like, "I'm not gonna work out. This girl has terrible taste in music." It was a lovely lady from another country who was just screeching as hard as could be.
I
And
almost
the
thought you
gain
were
was
talking about
way
Yasi
up.
just there. I was like,
I also thought
wow, okay.
Oh no, the singer. And I got there early, and then I texted her, "I'm sitting far away from the stage. Far. You can find me." So that also helped too. I had someone here that I knew, and it was also in the early stages of the relationship when I moved March 2020. So that helped too, to have somebody else.
Yeah, it's just been cool because I feel like we've all been involved since we met each other in like really important moments in each other's lives. Like obviously they were in our wedding, you know, and it's cool. It's cool to be there for important moments for your friends. Because I remember like you talking about when you first met her and like, you know, like all the wonderful feelings you're having.
Right.
It's just cool to have that memory.
Yeah. And then kind of also too, we all shared a first together, and that this was our with Back Home, this was I believe all of our first short, if not like at least our first short professionally working on together, like as a group,
Yeah,
in terms
as a
of
group,
like
yeah.
in terms of like
Yeah.
producing it.
Yeah.
So like Bailey had never directed before, and I had never produced before. David never produced before. Dave, I don't think you had written a script really since like college.
I had never had anything turn into anything, whatever
Yeah,
I wrote.
so,
and,
like-
and I don't know if had you ever written I think that was your first time too, right? Writing
First thing that went to fruition.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like it was a lot of firsts, this film, and it was so that I think that was kind of the key thing, was that it was not only our first like film together and all 4 of us in this capacity, but it was sort of also the first time we were all sharing some very monumental firsts in
Definitely.
our careers.
Definitely.
And so it was really a overall, I think, good and like powerful experience to see how we all work together professionally versus like as friends, because that's kind of the thing. It's you talk about like going into business with your family, right, or with your friends. It's like that. Thank you. I'm the one being like, guys, lean into the mic, and you remind me. Thank you. But that's kind of the thing about like going into business like with your family or working on a project with like your best friends when it becomes like a passion project. Like there's a lot of risk involved in that, and I think that was a great thing was with us being able to kind of figure out how do we work together, how do we still collaborate and still love each other as friends, and then like separate that as collaborators / then also use our friendship and our memories together as insight into how we do these characters, how we how Bailey directs, etc. So
and so Dave and Jeremy wrote it. And then you just decided, okay, let's make this thing. Or did you write it because you wanted to make a short?
Yes.
Yeah, we wanted to make a short, but it started as like a 20-minute improv, basically.
Yeah, I was out here in 2019 just visiting him. Yeah. And I think if I remember correctly,
we recorded it. I still have the recording.
That's right. Yeah. Dave, I just came over to hang out and say hey, and we were chatting, and we realized that we both had the same disease plague our families. Dave's mom has MS. My grandfather had MS. And I think I was just driving home one day, and that just stuck with me about how we both had this, because it's not a very common disease.
Unfortunately, it's become more common now that more celebrities have gotten it. But growing up, my mom's had it my whole life. So growing up, it was not a disease you heard much about. It was, as you said, relatively, I guess, rare would be the word. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I was also
Jeff,
here.
this is your own fucking podcast. Get it together.
He's so popular. That's nice. Someone's texting him.
No, and I think, I was driving home, and I wanted to do something. I was out here for a month in the summer, and I called Dave, and I said, we should do something. We should write that, or we should just shoot it, just do something, and we both went home, and I think we started.
I don't remember why we did the improv exactly, but we just like
I think
started talking about it.
I had gotten into mumblecore at that point. There was a really popular Chicago show called this one
Easy.
Thank you, Easy, that takes place in Chicago.
Swanberg.
And I'd done a lot of reading about this, about how they had a start and a finish to the scene, basically, and then you kind of mumble your way through it. You improv it, knowing who your characters are and how they get there. And I told Dave that we should try this. And you got your character together, and I got mine, and it ended totally differently. It ended happily, and I let you go and pursue your dream, and I'm so sorry, and I love you as a brother, nothing can break up. And then we started writing the script, and it was like, no.
Yeah, I was like,
no,
yuck.
and that was sort of how it went. Was we had this improv, and then this over 2019, we would collaborate like through Google Docs, and then into the COVID pandemic and everything, we were just back and forth, sort of writing this thing, and then. Was it 2021? I guess we were in your pool, and Jer and I had gotten to a point where we
Had it
felt
been
like
2020?
Was it 2020?
Had it been 2020?
I think you're right. You were visiting.
I was
we had
visiting.
written the first scene, and we were like, "Oh, we're writing something." And Bailey goes, "Can I direct it?" We both said,
"Yes."
Because we
jumped on that.
Well, this had to be 21 because we shot it in April 22.
I don't remember.
No, but I think that when you guys talked about like this is what we're doing, and I was like, I want to be a part of it, and then we did edits in 2021. Before I moved out.
Because that was because Jared and I had this thing that was sort of cobbled together. We had the general idea that stayed the same, but it needed a lot of refining, and Bailey helped us with that. You were like the editor basically, and it was funny because Jared and I had talked a lot when we first had this idea, like, how do you want to film this? Should we just do iPhones? Should we just do it and get it done with? And you were, we were going back and forth, and you were like, well, we should just knock out like 5-6 of these, and by the 7th, 8th one, we'll have something that's like passably good. And we were writing this thing, and when Bailey especially came on, and I remember I was expecting it. I didn't know what to expect, and I was like, this is actually like not shitty. Like it's actually like decent. And
hell yeah.
Well, because I didn't know what to. I had no idea what to expect, and I was like, this is actually like a decent script. And then that got us thinking like, well, we should do this right. It's actually a decent idea, so we should do this right. So things just kind of picked up from there. Yeah.
Bailey took over as director, and Dave said, I want to executive produce and do it right. And he funded the whole shoot. And look at us now.
And it was so cool. I mean, and going to like what Jules said about firsts, I had never really been to any festivals before. I don't think you guys had really done it. So, the festival was all new. The filming was basically new from the perspective that we all had because we'd all been actors in one way or another in short films. But like, I had never produced anything. We'd never written anything. Never directed anything.
Not
so
like
the
that,
perspectives
yeah.
were all new. The feeling of getting into a festival was new and great and incredible, and then like, oh my God, somebody that doesn't know us wants to watch this film, which is an amazing feeling, which I'm sure you've had a million.
Appreciate that.
Were we your premiere?
No.
No, yeah.
No.
So you don't have to thank me. Lots of people. I was like your 11th
Doesn't matter
date.
the order. Each one.
But
First one special.
But to Jared's point, and actually like no BS, like every single time that somebody that didn't know us liked our film was incredible, because as I'm sure so many people have told you, like when you make this stuff and you had the honor of being in a festival, of somebody like, I think your film is good enough to not only be in our festival but to show other people, is like, wow, because you make it because you think it's good, and you make it because you like it, and that's why you do it. But you still want people to see it. You still want it to have an impact, and knowing that it might, and that in some cases it did, is a great feeling. And so it's just been incredible, honestly, and working together was great, and it's been great. Yeah.
And that was a year ago. But are there a bunch of more? Did it just? Okay, so did it give you all a taste
Oh yeah.
of filmmaking, and you're approaching it as a group or individually or both?
Probably both, I would say. We're going to be a part of the 48 Hour Film Festival in August. And we've all talked about different ideas in one way or another. Not necessarily that we're all collaborating on the same one, but I feel like it's kind of the case where in one way or another, some of us are involved in some capacity in whatever idea the other person has. Be it just, I have this great idea, like when you had, your couple great ideas for the TV series and the other script you were doing, and it's just like, even if it's just to bounce off people, it's like we respect each other. We're best friends, and we respect each other so much artistically that it's like, not just because you're my friend, but because like I know, like if I want to get good opinions that I respect, that I know like what you're talking about, I go to Jules, Bailey, and Jeremy, because I know that they're going to tell me the truth. I know that if they like it, that means they like it, and they're just saying it because they're trying to be nice to me, which is an important thing. Sometimes, believe it or not, giving negative feedback is actually very important, because it means, in my opinion, then you can trust their positive feedback. So if they only give you positive feedback, then you're like, okay, I mean, my mom can tell me that, the goal is to try to make it better. And I feel like I can go to all you for that. And I think we all feel that way.
Yeah.
I will also say that I have now become a go-to reader for Bailey for her auditions. I'm very proud of that role.
Yes.
Very, very
Jules
proud.
has helped me with so many auditions. Dave, too. It's just like, please, I need a reader ASAP.
And now you've been going over to Jerry's to do audition readings.
I did that once. That was fun. Yeah. That was a lot of fun.
I'm going to share a bias I have, which is I love ensemble work, and I love when people keep coming back with ensemble work, because I think that's something that, like the golden era of Hollywood, so to speak, had it, like whether it was co-stars and directors, like people working together over and over. I think it keeps getting better.
Yeah.
And for some reason, it's gone away a bit, and you don't get enough of that.
It's an interesting point. Yeah, I immediately thought of Ilya Kazan and Brando when you said that, because they did Streetcar, Viva Zapata, and I think On the Waterfront. That was like 3 of his first 4 films or something. And I'm sure there was. I was
like The Big Chill. Like it immediately came to my head. I was like an ensemble movie, which is one of my favorite films.
But like Eugene Levy and Catherine O'Hara, like
I see, yeah,
like Essie,
Christopher Guest,
like people who have those people.
Yep.
I just think I'm just sharing that I'm delighted to see you all still like each other after making Back Home. Because I feel like each thing you do will get better if you stay at it and stay honest with each other.
And to your point from before about why we might have had success with the play that we met, you have an energy and the vibe that you work with people, you know how everyone works, and when you enjoy it so much more, you can almost feel that, especially in live theater, but it comes through on screen too.
Yeah, I truly think that guy was like, I have this incredible cast of actors somehow that have gotten along with each other, like going all the way back to theater about the law thing. He was like, these people get along with each other. They're talented. They do good work. I need them. And because there were other people in the ensemble too that rounded out this really great first iteration of that ensemble. But like the 4 or 5 of us was like rock solid. It was awesome. Yeah.
Definitely.
I'm sure he's a wonderful person, but let's be honest, like someone running a tiny theater in Chicago has to grab any talent they see, like anything promising, right? Because it doesn't come through the door all the time.
Totally.
Yeah, it's an interesting point. It's actually something that another thing I noticed about LA, and that was helpful with back home, was like we had a very talented crew, a great DP, great lighting, great sound. I mean, everybody on the crew was incredible, and the fact that we could find them and they would want to work for us was amazing because, obviously we were basically a no budget film. So like in Chicago, I don't know how prevalent that would have been. I mean, in my experience, it really wasn't very prevalent in terms of getting an amazing crew for a deal like that.
I mean, no, we would have found them, but it would have taken.
It would have been hard.
It would have been hard, but shout out Chicago. They have really great filmmakers.
Would have been like someone who shoots, like they've got people who shoot commercials all the time and stuff.
Yeah, there's like the Chicago NY, the Chicago PD, Chicago Med.
But to your point,
I'm not trying to trash
no, but to your point, like it would have been hard to find. I think.
I guess what I mean is
group,
like they're working on Chicago Fire, I feel like.
Sure.
Like,
Yeah.
In terms of the availability, the quality, and the cost, right? Like I think that you would have had a lot less options in Chicago than in LA, and that's true for music, and I'm sure it's true for film as well.
And I hear all the time with people. In fact, I heard it a few nights ago that one of the keys is that when you're making an indie film, you just give people promotions. Like someone who works all the time as first AC gets a DP. Someone who works all the time as scripty gets to AD. Whatever, like there's so many talented people just waiting for a chance.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's pretty cool to make an indie film because you're giving people a chance.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Much better than shooting with your iPhones. Although that could have been really good too.
I've seen films on iPhones that are incredible.
Yeah.
So I'm not a DP. I'm not a cinematographer. I don't know. I wouldn't know how to do any of that stuff.
I mean, I give you a lot of credit because I think probably most of us were kind of like, no, like let's just get it done. Let's just do it quickly because we just wanted to do it. But you really had a vision in your head for like, no, like I really want someone who knows what they're doing with the camera and what they're doing with the lights, what they're doing with the sound. Like I think that we have something here, and I really want to invest in it. And so, you very much kind of like took the helm on that and were like, no, guys, I think we can do it. I really do. I think we should invest in this. And, you were right to take that risk because it really paid off.
And I think you were right because it's a relationship drama and it's a family drama, and that shit needs quality. Like, if it's funny as fuck, it can be shot on a shitty camera, and it can be a bad environment. You can have technical issues if it's a horror film, but the scares are there. Right. But drama, you're asking the audience a lot if they're going to ignore technical problems when it's really about the performances on screen.
That's a good point.
That's
a very good point.
Sure.
Well, I watch too many fucking. I like 1,500-1,600 a year get submitted.
What's the genre you get most?
Drama's still number one.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I'd wish it would be something else. Not that I don't love drama.
Noted.
Not horror. I felt like horror or like sci-fi or horror or something would be.
But there's festivals that cater to those.
That's true.
That's kind of its own little
niche
universe, right? Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, so it's mostly, amusingly, it's mostly drama. It's always number one drama. And then it varies between comedy, actually, and art house. We do get a lot of art house because not many festivals have an art house category. And we have an art house category because I'm an art house whore. So,
there you go.
like I can't not get I love it when it's weird, But anyway, so is there a pile of scripts now? What's going on?
I feel like we're all doing sort of different things. For me, the big thing is the 48-hour film festival coming up. I'm really excited about that. Bailey's a part of it. Jules is a part of it. Sadly, Jer cannot, but he's got another project I'm sure he'd want to talk about. But I'm really excited about that. I've never done that before. I'm working with the same DP, Evan Morton, great guy, incredibly talented. And we got a great crew, and David Hartley, who keeps being brought up. He's flying in from Texas.
Let's go.
Another member of our group. He's flying in. He's going to help write it with me and Bailey, and then we're going to star in it with maybe a couple other people. So I'm really excited about that. I think it'll be a lot of fun. So that's kind of what I got on the docket. I don't know.
Yeah, I have my own original project called Jules and the Howl, which is glam rock. So like if the Struts and the Killers had a threesome with a keytar, that would be me. That would be my music. Yeah. So I am helping to put together a show called Women Rock LA in July, which will be a showcase of 4 female-fronted rock acts with a female comedian and a female DJ. So we're doing that in July 19th. So if you like rock music at Lucky Strike, July 19th, come see me. I am also in a musical theater tribute band called the Muses. So we basically are a rock band, but we do cabaret styles of musical theater songs. We have some costume changes. We do a little bit of choreography. We do songs from all different genres and time periods, musical theater. So I have kind of those 2 things going for me primarily, apart from, doing the 48-hour film and really kind of whatever else I'm asked to do in terms of being an AD for my friends and their films.
Is it too much to ask this group to make a musical?
Okay.
It's not too much to ask, and thank you for asking that.
No, so because that's one of the categories for 48-hour films.
I know,
and they were like, so
I'm
about
praying for
that.
mockumentary musical. I am praying for mockumentary
honestly,
musical.
just do it. That'd be excellent. That'd be completely
so
excellent.
fun.
I can't sing or dance, so if I
That's
was involved in
perfect.
it, that would have to be written into the script as a fact for whoever I
Disclaimer.
Can you imagine like me and Harley being like, that guy can't dance?
Comes in.
Yeah, and then I had to Milwaukee rep. I'm assistant directing a new musical, Prelude to a Kiss, the musical. I was assistant director on that at South Coast Rep earlier this year. And then when I come back in October, I'm filming a mini-series called Delicate Condition that I wrote and will direct and star in as well.
Nice.
I'm in a play.
Yeah,
Don't you? I'm in a play. That's awesome.
48-hour
Let's go.
I'm jealous. We're getting the band back together.
I know.
No, I'm doing a play at the South Pasadena Theater Workshop. I wrote another short film that's another family drama. Sorry, Jeff. It's another one coming your way.
But I
It's
like
nice,
family
I read
I
drama.
know, but it's another drama just to add to the pile of dramas.
When
we
are
gotta
you
watch.
shooting it?
Not till after the play.
TBD.
Okay.
Yeah, and I've had a couple other ideas that I'm messing around with right now. These 2 keep rattling around, and they're both about old people. I don't know what's going on in my mind right now, but
Hell yeah.
they're both about old people.
Jerry's a great comedic writer, and I literally have it. I still have that video that we took on New Year's Eve, and you were like, "Hey, this is what my film is about, and I really want to do it." Yeah, the one with
Oh, right.
I still have that.
Oh,
I still
yeah.
have that because I'm gonna make sure that you get that shit done.
It's
It's
too bad
really
this is
funny.
an audio podcast.
Yeah, it's really
Podcasts are a visual medium.
Thank you. I was waiting for it.
No, wait, no, it's not. It's not a. It's a film.
No.
Or a series.
I'm teasing. I'm engaged.
Oh, my bad. I missed. Woo, right over my head. My bad.
But those are.
But I want to add that that's actually a brilliant hack. I don't know if I want to call it a life hack, but when someone writes an indie script, like a short, but they write roles for people, what's the nice way to say it? Of age?
Of age.
People
That's a nice way to
older performers.
Yes.
Oh,
the
yeah.
quality of acting you get from someone in their 60s and 70s or even 80s, ridiculous. It elevates everything to have someone who's been doing it for 40 years, even if they've never made it big. The skill set is ridiculous.
Yeah, we saw some amazing films, not only at your film festival, but one I'm thinking of at Pasadena that we got into.
You talking about Ball and Bass?
Ball
You talking about Ball and Bass?
That was incredible.
Yeah.
I remember not knowing who Austin Pendleton was at the
Yes.
time, and I was like, who is this guy? I was like, get this guy into our next film. And everyone's like, I can't believe Austin Pendleton was in that movie. I'm like, oh, whoops. I don't know who this guy is.
That's fine.
But what was your favorite besides your film vision?
Well, Big Boy. What was that horror film that we saw?
Oh, yeah.
It was like the...
It was
Oh my
in the
God.
one in your block?
It was the one in our block, and was it
in the attic, right?
In
dolls.
the attic,
The
the dolls.
dolls.
It was like Big Boy, or it was called something like that. But in
doll
the
was called
credit,
Big Boy.
the doll was called Big Boy. It was like, it was called Not Moving Out because it was like estate sale.
Yes, very good.
Estate sale, so good.
I think
that
we
was
also
my-
not
that
only
was my
enjoyed
favorite.
the film so much, but during the Q&A with you, they talked about how it was an ensemble crew of 3. If you remember this, I don't know if you remember. They flew in on Friday night and were supposed to shoot Saturday and Sunday. They spent whole Saturday just chatting and catching up with each other.
Yes.
And so they blew a whole day of 2-day shoot. And
Yeah.
I think that also really, it inspired me at least to be like, oh my God, this is amazing. When you get to this level that you've done it a bunch, you can knock
Yeah.
this out in a day and a night. This was incredible, and it was a great horror film.
I talked to that director over Zoom like weeks later, and I was just wanted to pick his brain. He was just like, "You can do whatever you want." Like he was the nicest guy, but like to your point, like the reps of just freaking making it because
Yeah.
like time's gonna pass anyway,
Yeah.
and so just do it. So then when you're like, time is of the essence now. It's like, oh, okay, we can still just like
Right.
fly.
And the sheer joy that they had in making it
joy
too.
of it, yeah.
It was so lovely.
And not being too precious, right? When you're too precious, you
Right.
can't get it done.
Right. Maybe they had more leniency to your point about being a horror film, and so if some of the lighting was off, it might just play to a shadow or whatnot, but
Yeah.
still just,
I loved that film.
yeah.
It was not as technically proficient as back home, but like you said, it in a horror film.
It scared me.
That's the thing is the scares worked.
Yeah.
Scares word.
You can't fake scares or laughs
Yes.
That is true.
or tears.
Right.
So drama still counts.
Yeah.
All right. Well, anything anyone wants to throw in before we wrap it up?
I'm going to repeat what I just said. Make your art, make your film. Time passes anyway.
Fair.
I'm writing a children's book, so if anybody's got kids out there,
We need
No, he really
them
is.
for
For
the
real.
book.
No, for real.
it's going to be hopefully
We
good.
need some readers
Yeah.
to see if this.
Here, give a quick little, like what? Like,
Do you need an artist? Because we actually had
Let's
an
go.
amazing animated film in Film Invasion on Saturday. This young man from Cal Arts did this beautiful animated film, Anansi the Spider,
Let's
and
go.
he's actually making it into a kid's book with his
Right.
art.
Remember he said that. That's right.
I don't, unfortunately.
Oh, you got
But if
an illustrator?
yeah, oh
Nice.
I found a woman from Europe who's pretty darn good. But if things don't work out with her, I'm coming your way. But thank you.
Hell yeah.
Dave saw it. It was a kick-ass,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I would say that one. I mean, Rite of Passage. We were talking about that, and then I thought V Card was really funny. I was.
Oh, you got to see V-Card. I was telling them
Yeah.
about V-Card.
That was fun.
So fucking good.
Yeah.
this is really random. Has anyone ever told you that you look like Ben Kingsley?
Oh.
Yes.
Sir Ben Kingsley.
Sir Ben Kingsley and I.
Ben Kingsley.
And later I'll show you a picture of me with Keegan-Michael Key, and we were separated at birth.
Oh my
gosh.
gosh. Sir Ben
All right.
Kingsley.
And when I had hair, I could actually pass for Bradley Cooper, but that's according to
I
some
see
people.
that. I actually do see that. No, I really do.
the
Like
eyes.
just like if I just
See
go like
that.
this, I absolutely see it. Yes, perfect, perfect. Now I see it. Right?
His wig is pretty convincing, right? He and I are actually separated at birth. No,
Yeah, no,
I'm
you
separated at
should-
birth from Keegan-Michael Key.
I
come to
can see
me.
that. I can see that. You guys should have a little family portrait. You know.
I'm ethnically vague.
There we go. There we go. That's why, like, if you caught me like staring at you from across the table, I was just kind of like, "Is it? Yeah, I see it. I see it. It's Sir Ben Kingsley."
I love the Ben Kingsley thing. Love it. Although he has aged, but come on. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll bring him up during your 4 questions stuff.
Perfect.
But well, instead of asking you all for your social media handles and links and stuff, we'll just put them all in the show notes.
Perfect.
Because we'll have like another 10 minutes of people naming
Right.
like ats
I know.
at blah 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 on Instagram at blah blah blah. So we'll put everything in the show notes, and I will wrap this up.
Thank you.
And I haven't done this since before the festival, so I'm a little rusty. But let's just do it quick, which is, well, back home was in Film Invasion Los Angeles, so I'll mention that one first. Film Invasion LA is every June in Los Angeles. It's a film festival. You can learn more if you go to filminvasionla.com, and it's at Film Invasion LA on all forms of social media. Although we don't have TikTok, because it's vertical. Fuck that shit.
It's not just a film festival. It is an amazing film festival. Kudos to you. Don't sell yourself short. It is the film festival. One of our faves. We loved it. You do wonderful work there.
It is ranked in the top 100 worldwide out of 12,000 best reviewed, top 100 best reviewed, which is funky. Thank you for that. And but I'm normally start off. Thank you for listening to the Discover Indie Film podcast. If you want to learn more about it, go to discoverindiefilm.com, and it's at DIF Wins on all social media. It did give birth to a TV series on Amazon Prime Video. So if you just go to Prime Video and type in Discover Indie, it auto-completes. It's Discover India, and then you put that E after the I, the second I, and then you get Indie Film. And there's 7 seasons so far. I'll tell the 4 of you what happened to season 8, and when we're not recording. And Film Invasion has a sister festival every December, Sherman Oaks Film Festival. It's not in Sherman Oaks anymore because Sherman Oaks doesn't have a great theater like that. Like, that's such a beautiful theater. Look Cinemas in Glendale are the best. So if you want to learn more about the Sherman Oaks Film Festival, go to ShermanOaksFF.com, and it's at Sherman Oaks FF on social media. And the last thing I got to throw in is just go to WatchTVHi.com. It's just fantastic indie films, stand-up comedy, and some vintage cinema that is public domain like Nosferatu and whatnot. So what are you going to do? So that's a streaming service that I bothered to, because I am not intelligent enough to not stretch myself beyond my limits. I do, but I'm bringing in help, so because I really can't do too many things at once, and the festivals are too important to turn my back on. So anyway, thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And thank you everyone for listening.